Hi again. It's me here at Viva Prana, and I just finished my first of 3 weekend workshops with this community, and it was just so much fun. These students are amazing. They're really dedicated and really open-minded to adopt a new, at least a conversation, at least a new thought process about the body, and to dive right into a whole different way of looking at the spine and looking at the tissue structure. So it's been a really, really fun experience so far, and I've only been here for 3 days, so there's so much more to come. I wanted to continue on with this conversation that I'm really excited to be having, which is this conversation of the bowspring and the linear, more modern postural yoga coexisting in a studio space. And I had a great discussion yesterday with a traditional Hatha yoga teacher who herself had some injuries with yoga, came into yoga because of an injury, but then had another injury because of her practice. And over probably close to a decade now of her practice, she is moving into yoga therapy. And it's a really honorable direction to go when she's noticing that she's got students that are injured, that people are injured, and that her body was injured, and she's trying to help recover. So she was asking me really, really, I think, keen awareness. Her questions had keen awareness of what's happening with this system and what's going on in this conversation with yoga and moving into this, for me at least, this life of bowspring. So as I've been adopting this practice over the last 4 years, I've gone through an entirely new, I would say, shifting of my own thinking, of my own philosophical understanding of what even I believe in. What are my values? What are my ethics? What do I care about? And when I let go of the yoga philosophy, and I really had to consciously do that, it felt like I was kind of standing out there on a limb. I didn't have any foundation to stand on. And the practice of bowspring was really a physical practice. And what her question was to me was, is bowspring just a movement system? Is it like a Pilates? Is it like a CrossFit? Is it just some athletic movement? Or does it have a philosophy like yoga? Do they teach the sutras? Do they teach the 8 limbs and ongo? And it was great, great question. And for me, my answer right now, and I do not anticipate this being the be-all, end-all in any way, but my life has evolved in such a way that I'm seeing the philosophy evolve from the shape of the bowspring. Now, I've been in this conversation, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, there's plenty of online resources. Just go Google bowspring and you'll find some information. But the shape of the body itself, when we work with this bowspring practice, the shape is significantly different. But inherently, as the shape, as the form of this practice ingrains more, becomes more of my natural way of moving, my day-to-day actions, my everyday activities, I'm starting to find that this radiant heart tenet, this piece that is a main central tenet of our practice, is starting to push out and expand into other areas of my life. Radiant heart being my heart expands in every direction, and I'm not willing to let anything make me shrink or diminish myself. It's just one piece of our philosophy. But what I'm looking at as I move more and more into this practice is that the form came first, which is really interesting because in the Hatha yoga conversation, the philosophy is what's thousands of years old. The form of the Hatha yoga postures only came around in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and only a few people really created those. And I would say maybe 5 to 10 really strong core of men, Indian men, really created these Hatha yoga postures. So as these yoga postures are what people think ancient, right, practices, we got to realize what's really ancient is the philosophy of yoga, which I think goes much beyond any physical practice, but the postures came much later. So we're in a whole different conversation right now because the form is actually first with bowspring. It was developed first, it was looked at first, and now in my personal experience, the philosophy is unfolding from there. My heart has expanded, radiant heart, right? And I've pushed it open for the last 4.5 years. And what I'm finding is that there is so much lightness in my life, so much more freedom in my life because I have stopped closing down. I've stopped shutting off or squeezing my shoulder blades or pulling my chin down and flattening my curves. I have allowed the curves to be there, and then I've pushed even more from the inside. So this willpower, this gumption, this grit, this need to push open, to crack to crack open, right? To kind of break through a shell is part of a philosophical understanding of this practice that I think is inevitable for any student that follows this path for any length of time. They start to see that the form actually informs their life. And from there, as you develop or evolve or grow, you might even personally create your own philosophy around it. Or you might find that your own morals and values and ethics need to be looked at and refined a little bit, and you could stand on a different foundation of integrity. But what I do know is that bowspring will stir things up. It will wake up those dormant parts of you that you maybe have been ignoring. Maybe have you been a little bit blocked off to. And as you wake up to those parts of you, you start to see more and more what you're capable of. And I'm pretty down with that. Using a practice, a form, a shape to inform the way that I believe, the way that I live, the way that I move in this life. It's a blessing that I wake up every single day excited to explore more and to unfold more of my body. So as I said, I'm just going to continue to have this conversation, but I think it's really, really awesome. And I didn't think about this until this teacher, this Hatha Yoga modern postural teacher, asked me this question: does bowspring have a philosophy? And I'm realizing that the philosophy came first in yoga and then the form. But with bowspring, the form came first, and I think the philosophy is evolving. And for me, it's beautiful. I want to talk about it, I want to have the conversations, and I want to teach it. If you have questions, please reach out to me. If you're close to the Chicago area anytime soon, I'm teaching 6 classes a week for the next month and a workshop every other Saturday. So the next time I'll gather in this setting for 2 hours is July 8th. We'll talk about the practice, we'll go into the vital roots sequence, and we'll open up a conversation about philosophy if you're into it. I'd love to see you. I hope you all are doing really, really well, keeping up with your practices, no matter where they are, no matter what it is. And know that it is so powerful for you to do something on a regular basis that helps you grow, that helps you expand, release old patterns, and start to pave a new pathway for your life. Think about the philosophy that you're standing on, the foundation that you believe in, and think about what your body is doing to reflect that. Perhaps there's some healing that can come from there. I love you all. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.